One of the things that a lot of great leaders and authorities in their industry recognize is that they are good at certain things, but they're not good at everything. I mean, any smart leader, business owner recognizes that they're not the best at everything.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest today is the internet marketing nerd. I'm not insulting him. That's literally what he calls himself. Paul Getter. He has 1 million followers. The guy's responsible for growing some of the biggest names. Tai Lopez, Grant Cardone. He's worked with all of them and helping them grow their businesses, grow their attention, grow their brand online. If you're interested in building your business online, this is the guy you want to listen to right now. Check it out. Paul, my friend, welcome to the show. So good to have you here.
Jason, excited to be here. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Of course, and love the background, what's going on. We'll talk about all that in a second. But for the listeners who don't know who you are, and I suspect there are a lot because you're usually the guy behind the scenes, helping other people grow until recently, which now you're, 1 million followers. I can't really say you're a secret. Why don't you tell us a bit about your story? I know you have an incredible entrepreneurial story. I know it's something like an overnight success story that took 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, first of all, again, thanks a lot for having me here, Jason. You're doing amazing things yourself. Yeah, I've had the privilege of working with some of the top entrepreneurs online, guys like Tai Lopez, Grant Cardone, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, A-list celebrities, a lot of amazing people. Been blessed to work with some really cool people. But yeah, I think it, I look at my bio and I think we made the mistake. Like we said, it all started 12 years ago. And then I have to look back and I'm like, well, it's not 12 years ago now, it's 14 years ago. So it was, man, let's see, I think it's about 2008. So 14 years. A lot of times people ask me the question, like, how did you decide to become an entrepreneur? I'm like, I had bills to pay. It's like, I think you come from the same generation and mindset that is like, okay, I've got bills to pay. Nobody's going to do it for me. So you just like figure out something, whether it was, I think when I was going through those hard times, I was doing whatever I could to make ends meet. I was delivering phone books. I was mowing grass. I was, just doing everything. And I kind of always had the tech side of things, like the nerdy mind. So back in 2008, a lot of the social media platforms were, they were relatively new. And I remember a friend of mine told me, they're like, hey, Paul, you need to get on Facebook to stay in touch with me. I'm like, oh man, it's just a game. I don't want to play on Facebook. I don't want to waste time. And I finally gave in and got on Facebook, and I really discovered that it was kind of an opportunity to start a business, and there was opportunity to monetize it.
I love it. I got on Facebook for a girl, right? I'm from Canada. She was from the US, and
Okay.
the only way to do it was there were only a few select schools, and she went to NYU when I met her.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, connect with me on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I had to go create an account, pretend I went to NYU. I had to use someone I know, their email address.
Wow. So that was the old days.
Yeah,
Wow.
2004, I believe.
Wow. Yeah. When it was only exclusive to colleges.
Yep. Yeah. So that's why I got on Facebook. So look, no formal training, no courses, no degree. How'd you become one of the most sought after online marketers?
Man, it was the bow tie. The bow tie is what did it.
Look, if you're listening to this, stop wasting money on courses. Stop, just drop out, get a bow tie.
Just get a bow tie.
Get a bow tie.
No, so yeah, I think when I first got on Facebook, I saw this was like the days of Farmvilles and games and stuff like that, where there's a lot of gamification of Facebook. But I did notice that businesses were setting up Facebook pages. And I was like, why are they doing that? And I realized, whether it was a restaurant, just a personal business, whatever, they were doing that. So I started up a Facebook page for our church, set that up, and, put pictures and everything like that, information about our church. And I remember it was a few weeks later, I was at church and I saw this new family there. I was like, where did you hear about us? And they're like, oh, we saw you on Facebook. And I was like, my mind was blown. I'm like, these are real people. They really came. And so I saw that there was opportunity for businesses. So I started working with local restaurants, going to them and saying, hey, you need to be on social media, and kind of bridge that gap between a traditional business and social media. And I would help them grow their social media. And man, I wish I could say like it was one specific thing, but things started evolving, and I started working with bigger companies and bigger businesses. And from what I understand, I kind of like try to backtrack and figure out how did things unfold. I was working with a guy in California, in Los Angeles, and he was an entrepreneur. I was getting him business leads for, I don't know, I think it was real estate or something like that. And he was at the barber shop getting his hair cut. Barber was asking him, how are things going? And, he's like, man, it's going great. I'm working with this kid over in Florida, and he's doing this stuff online, and we're really getting a lot of leads and stuff. And it was just kind of some conversation like that. Well, the next person in the barber chair was Tai Lopez. Wow. And Tai Lopez was overheard the conversation, I guess, got talking, and my information was passed on. And next thing I know, I was getting a call from, it was actually Tai Lopez's brother. He's like, tell me what you're doing and stuff. And at this time, Tai was kind of like, he's always kind of had that entrepreneur, successful business, but the days of here in my garage, they were just getting started. And so his brother reached out to me, called me up and said, hey, we heard you're doing some interesting stuff on Facebook, and tell us more about it. Had a conversation with him. And next thing you know, he's like, well, call me up. He's like, hey, can you fly out to Los Angeles tomorrow? I'm like, really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. And so next thing you know, I'm sitting in Tai Lopez's office having a conversation with him. I guess you would say the rest is history. Started working with him, working various capacities, launching different businesses and opportunity courses. Just about every course that he's had, I've kind of been behind it, running ads and things like that. And kind of the entrepreneur space of courses, coaches, and consultants is a small world once you get in it.
Yep.
And next thing you know, I'm at conferences and stuff, and people are coming up to me like, hey, we heard you work with Tai. Is it true? And initially I was very scared. I was like, oh no, I don't really do much. And I didn't want people knowing what I was doing, because I wanted to kind of like keep it to myself. And then I'm getting calls from Grant Cardone, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, and it just kind of was a domino effect from there.
Have you ever wondered what happened if Tai was never in that barbershop?
Yeah, I do. I think this, and I personally believe this, that if it's meant to be kind of like your skills, what you have to offer, from a biblical perspective, I believe, there's a Bible verse that says your gifts and callings will make room for themselves. So I think if it wasn't Tai Lopez, maybe it'd have been someone else or something. I think, there's a path and there's a journey that we're all, so whether it's a barber shop or, a restaurant or something like that, I think that your gifts, if you're good and you have focus and that, you really pursue it, that it'll unfold. And, I do give credit to a lot of amazing individuals that, introduced me to the right people. I don't want to discount that, but, sometimes I've had people in my life like, hey, if it wasn't for me making that introduction, you would never be where you are now. I'm like, well, you maybe, but if I am who I am, my gifts and my talents, they'll make room for themselves, and they'll make the introduction all by themselves. So.
You made the introduction. I had to do the work and actually get the results.
Exactly. Yeah, you can be introduced to some amazing people, but if you're not good at what you were introduced for, then it's all going to fall apart.
So how important in our line of work, or any line of work, to be honest, is building relationships?
So I think it's really important. So as I mentioned, when I first started getting into internet marketing, I was just like this, little puppet behind a curtain and just, working, doing things behind the scene. I was the behind the scene guy. And it was very intentional because I think I had some insecurities that I was concerned, like if people knew what I was going to do, what I was doing, they would try to steal my clients. And I was just like, really, I didn't go to conferences. I wasn't necessarily focused on building relationships. It was, but there came a point where, I give credit to individuals like Ty. Ty would be speaking at conferences and he would start talking about me and what I was doing. And next thing you know, people were calling me up, talking to me. And I realized that there's a lot of people now as coaches and consultants and experts. We don't like to hear this, but there's other people that know how to do what I do. There's other people that know how to do what you do. Whether it's running ads, building funnels, and maybe your experience and stuff. So what people do when they want to work with you, it's more than just your skills, but it's about a relationship. It's about a relationship that they want to have. So I really, there was kind of like that defining moment when I was like, look, it's more than just the skills, but it's about relationships, networking, and building partnerships with individuals that'll go much further than just your skills.
How'd you get over that whole mindset thing, though, of putting
Well,
yourself out there?
so this is what I saw in building relationships and building a business, that there's always competition. There's always competition. I mean, if you're an internet marketer, if you're a coach, whatever it is, any business, there's always competition. And there is that certain amount of insecurity that when you're working with a client, you can be doing a good job, but if somebody comes along and says, we can do a good job too, but we'll do it for cheaper, that there's a temptation with that client to say, this guy can do it too. He'll do it for cheaper. But if you have a solid relationship with that client or that, that student, whatever it might be, that the relationship, you can't put a price tag on that. So, the skills and the talents are absolutely necessary. Those are priority, but there is a lot of value in building that relationship with people that secures the business.
Yeah, one of the best advice I ever got when I first started the agency was your best client will eventually leave you.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. It's true. Yeah.
So you built relationships with a lot of big names. I guess the first question is, why do they need you? Like, why does Grant Cardone need you? They have the name. Les Brown has the name. They're well known.
Sure.
Where's the value? Where's the value add?
Yeah, so, I think one of the things that a lot of great leaders and authorities in their industry recognize is that they are good at certain things, but they're not good at everything. I mean, any, smart leader, business owner recognizes that they're not the best at everything. So what they do is they look and they surround themselves with individuals that, okay, they're great at teaching, training, sales, building courses, and whatever their expertise is, but building the infrastructure, getting their message out there, that takes an individual that has skill sets that go into things like running Facebook ads and YouTube ads and building funnels and the structure and the team that is necessary to do that. And so I'll tell you this. I was sitting in Ty's office when I very first met him. He I had a little presentation showing him what I do and how I do it and everything like that. And he said this. He said, Paul, I can learn how to do what you do. I've ran ads. And this is what he was saying. He said, I ran ads. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. He's a smart guy. He said, but I don't want to waste my time trying to figure it out. And so, and that really, that kind of showed me who he was, that you got to find people, you got to surround yourself with people that can do things that you can't, or you'll waste your time trying to figure it out.
You work with a lot of different business owners now and a lot of coaches, you do a lot of consulting. What's the biggest problem you see businesses face today when it comes to their marketing?
Well, I think one of the things, and I have fallen into this myself, entrepreneurs want to do everything. They want to build their funnels. They want to run their ads. They want to teach, do their courses. They want to speak on stage. They want to do all of these things. And so there's no real solidarity of focus. And, it wasn't until about 2 years ago that, as you mentioned, run an agency. We have a very large clientele, and I'm CEO of that. And we have a team of about 75 people, website builders, copywriters, ad buyers, and everything like that. And I'm trying to manage this, but then there's a demand upon me to speak on stage, to do courses, coaching, consulting. And I'm trying to do both of these. It wasn't until 2 years ago where I tried to transition myself and putting proper leadership over the agency that I can not necessarily remove myself from it, but allow myself to focus more on the things that only I can do. So I always tell people, figure out what only you can do. There's skill sets that only you can do. Anything outside of that, outsource it, hire someone to do it for you.
And I would say with the caveat, right? And I know you understand this, but I think a lot of listeners just think the expression "do what you do best, outsource the rest." But there's also a difference between delegating and abdicating that responsibility, right? If you don't know what you're outsourcing and you're just going to trust someone to come in and do the job for you and build your business for you, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. I think there's an importance of knowing things at a high level.
Yes, agreed.
Being able to know, speak the language of who you're working with. I have had interviews with potential ad buyers. I know how to run Facebook ads, YouTube ads. I know how to run it. I've done it. I'm not the best person on my team at running ads. I used to be. When I first got started, I was like, I was the man. I was the best. But as things grew, I began to hire and put people in place. But I can get on the phone with a Facebook ad buyer, someone that presents themselves as a Facebook ad buyer, and I can ask them 2 or 3 questions, and I know if they know what they're talking about or not. Just because I know the language. I'll ask them like, what type of conversion, what type of displays will you use? What type of objective will you use for this type of ad? And if they're like saying, I will use this type, I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about. So
going back to the big names for a second, because something I'm still just fascinated with, like I'm just trying to imagine the listener saying, okay, so you got your shot with these guys, you do what you do best, outsource the rest. They found you to take care of all that. Like, how do you do that? How do you build the relationship with these people? How can the listeners, learn from that and work with some big names? And I guess in the type of work that we do, being around these guys is huge, right? So what's the strategy when it comes to you trying to build that relationship for breaking the ice?
Yeah. So, I guess it's, like guys like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez. I've worked with, I'm trying to think of someone that is outside of the entrepreneur space, like Kevin Hart. I work with Kevin Hart. I guess one of the things that I recognize is everybody kind of has that common grounds. I remember having dinner with Kevin, and Kevin was so respectful and just like treated me like I was someone important. And I learned just from that. I mean, this is an A-list celebrity, and he's treating me like I'm someone important. I remember asking one of his friends after the dinner, I was like, man, he was so respectful. And, he's yes, sir, and no, sir. I was like, what? Why is he like that? He's like, he values the relationship with you. So I think that, when you realize that if you have gifts and skill sets that can sincerely help people, that it's more than just making money or, using them as a stepping stone, that your motive is like, I want to help them. I want to help them. So if you approach every business opportunity as, I'm not just trying to make money, but I'm trying to help. I remember a lot of my clients and stuff during this whole COVID crisis, when it first hit, they started messaging me, what should I do? What should I do? What do I need to change and everything? I'm like, as long as your focus is helping people, I think everything will work out. You might have to change the way that you help people, but just help people. It'll all work out.
Yeah, I mean, if you solve problems, you'll never be out of a job.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how important is building a brand, whether it's personal or business, and getting attention these days?
Yeah. Well, I think, attention is the new currency, is what they say, whether it's Gary Vee or Grant, they understand getting attention is so important. So this is what I would say when it comes to building a personal brand. That's kind of what my specialty is, helping individuals build that personal brand. Attention is so important because your products can always change or evolve. When Grant Cardone started, he was a car salesman trainer. That's what he was. That's what he was known for, is training car salesmen. Obviously, he's evolved real estate and 10x conferences, and just he's became this life of his own. But he understood the importance of attention. I look at individuals like Shaq. Shaq, huge. He's a basketball player. I mean, that's what he is known for, a basketball player. But you go into the store, he's selling Frosted Flakes, he's selling general car insurance. I mean, I walked into Walgreens, I'm like, there's a poster of him here, he's selling this, I mean, whatever he wants, because he has a huge personal brand. So when you have a huge personal brand, you can attach yourself to any product or service, and you lift it up. You add value to it through your own personal brand. So that's what I like about a personal brand, is you're not limited to one particular product or service. You can say, hey, I want to help this, and grab a hold of it. You believe in it and you lift it up.
So, I mean, I love that. And so let's get tactical for a second. Let's get a bit strategic. What's the basic apply this now recipe to growing your personal brand online? Like, what's the blueprint?
Omnipresence. It really is. So this is a kind of like a wow factor to people, is when they see you everywhere, they're like, man, this guy's everywhere. And it's not too complicated. It really isn't. From a, actually implementing this, it's basically having the proper pixels in your website, retargeting when someone hits your website, that you follow them around. And it might be a video here on YouTube, it might be a video on Facebook, on Instagram. You can go on to every platform, and there's easy ways to do that. There's services like AdRoll. You put one pixel in and they can cover all the platforms. A little bit more expensive than doing it yourself, but it gives you that omnipresence. It gives you the ability, when people see you everywhere, somehow it speaks importance and significance to them. And they're like, whoa, this guy's everywhere. I remember one time, one of my clients, we had a retargeting that kind of follows, and you've seen retargeting done properly. Like, you go to Amazon, and next thing you know, you go to Facebook, and that product's there. Well, you can do the same thing with a personal brand. And he called me up and he said, hey man, my mom, she said, I was on Best Buy's website and I saw you there. I can't believe it. You're on Best Buy. It's just retargeting. It's Google display ads, but just being positioned in the right places, it makes people think that you are significant and you're important.
And what's the strategy when it comes to using paid ads behind, I guess, amplifying that?
Yeah, so paid ads does what organic traffic does, but it speeds it up. I've heard people, there's kind of like these, call them like the vegans of ads. They're like, oh man, using ads is cheating. I only do it organically. I want organic traffic, organic sales. Like, all ads are doing is speeding up what organic is doing. So it's just adding fuel to the fire. It's not cheating. So I think the recipe is number one, I give you an example. Working with Grant Cardone, we're running his ads. We're spending millions of dollars in ads. And from a technical level, we are very conscientious about how we spend our clients' money. We're spending this much. We want to make this much. And I remember we're running campaigns and stuff, and we're like, well, we haven't scaled it yet because our ROI is this. And he says, I don't care about ROI, because he just wants it everywhere. You know what I mean? He recognizes that the ROI may not happen immediately, but if he invests in it now, that 6 months down the road, a year down the road, whatever, he knows he will reap the dividends from it. So if you got the money to put the money in it, like Grant Cardone, put as much money in it as possible. But not everybody's 10x Grant Cardone. So I think it's important that you have a product or service that you can monetize while running ads.
And look, there's no such thing as free marketing or free traffic, right? Like you trying to build the organic way or the vegan way, which is what you said, which I like, requires time and a lot of energy, which is another currency. Yeah. So it's either the money or the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of ads, you're the $1 billion man, right? You spent over $1 billion in ads. Yes. So what's the biggest takeaway from $1 billion in ad spend, the $1 billion lesson? Let's call it that.
It's a lot of money. That's number one. So here's the thing with ads is what was working 3 years ago doesn't work today. Doesn't work. What was working maybe 6 months ago may not work today. Kind of a catchphrase or a buzzword in marketing is disruptive. You know, I mean, everybody wants to be disruptive. Well, here's what happens in marketing is a new guy, and I have been the disruptor in certain, like, start using an ad style that does amazing. I'm like, man, this is really disruptive. People scroll and they're like, well, what happens is other marketers see that like, whoa, man, that's awesome. Then they start doing it. And now you have every other marketer and their brother doing what you were initially doing that was disruptive. If everybody's doing it, guess what? It's no longer disruptive. It's normal. So being able to catch those trends and learning how to be disruptive and catch people's attention, because that's kind of a big factor when it comes to running ads, is you get lost in the mess of people just scrolling. So you have to do something that is disruptive. This suit right here is one of the best performing suits in my ads. I've got ads that I'm in front of fancy cars and nice places and everything like this, but this jacket right here is one of the best converting outfits that I wear. So
wait, I want to make sure I understand this. So the key takeaways of this podcast are amazing suit and a bow tie.
Exactly.
That's you want ROI your business. You want to scale massively. Forget everything else that we talked about this on this podcast. Just remember those two things.
It's crazy though, Jason, because I will look at the ads and there's nothing that I can attribute that this ad has twice, you know, the click-through rate as this one, except I'm wearing this suit. And I look at the comments and people are like, man, I love that suit and stuff. And so it's like, it works. Now people might get tired of seeing.
But that raises a really good point, right? How important is developing a persona when you're trying to build a brand?
Yeah. It's really important. Here's, I guess, the cool thing about my persona is it's kind of authentically who I am. You know, I really am a nerd. You know, before this.
But no way you were wearing that mowing lawns.
No.
I don't believe you.
No. But man, I love the nerdy. You and I were having a conversation about Marvel and DC and comics and G.I. Joe and stuff. And like, this is grown men talking about comic books. But that's what I like. I mean, it's who I am. So it's authentically who I am.
So how do you develop that persona, right? Like, so, you have the suit, the bow tie,
Sure.
Rich Sheffrin wears the same black shirt on every single time. How do you figure out what persona works for you in order to stand out and be different?
Yeah. So here's the thing is a lot of times people do things in reverse is they try to find out what people like and they try to be that it never works. When you try to please everybody, you'll end up pleasing nobody. And so there are things that your personality, who you are going to be, kind of polarizing. Jason, there'll be people that don't work with me and don't take me serious because of this suit. I mean, I can't work with a guy like that, this goofball, you know what I mean? I can't take him serious. Well, I probably don't want to work with you either. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, so there are things about who we are that I do think that online, that those attributes and those traits about that, it's probably important to emphasize those and to put focus on those and allow those to be a dominant trait in who you are. Obviously, I don't always walk around in the suit and bow tie. It's funny, sometimes people see me at the gym, they're like, I don't have glasses on or anything like that. Like, are you Paul? I'm like, yeah.
It's the Clark Kent Superman.
Exactly. It's my alter ego.
Yeah. I don't recognize you. You look exactly the same. It's the glasses that are throwing me off.
So,
shifting gears for a second, you talk a lot about living in abundance. Can you explain what that means? Can you elaborate a little bit?
well, when it comes to abundance or success, I think you have to kind of define what that is for you, because success for you may not be the same thing as success for me. A lot of times people are trying to chase other people's definition of success, and you'll never be happy doing that. So there are areas in our life that you kind of have to prioritize and define, hey, this is most important for me. Not everybody is the same. So if you're trying to look at other people and say, hey, I want to be like them, I want to do that, then chances are you might not be fully happy. So I think that abundance and success is something that is personally defined for each individual. I do believe, a lot of people, when you say abundance, immediately they think money. Man, I have worked with people that have hundreds of, I probably have 6 billionaires on my phone that I can call and check. I can tell you that the amount of money that people have is not necessarily a barometer to their happiness. So, it's kind of, you have to ask yourself, what is, really defines success or abundance for me.
Love that answer. I know something you battled with, because I've heard you talk about it, is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's something I talk a lot about. It's something every entrepreneur, whether they want to admit it or not, has it. And especially entrepreneurs who want to put themselves out there in order to grow their brand, face it.
Yeah.
How have you, I don't think you've fully ever solved imposter syndrome, but how have you been able to get a grip on it and not let that prevent you from putting yourself out there?
Yeah. It's, man, I think about this. If you really think about it, you can get emotional, because nobody's truly happy trying to be somebody else or fit into somebody else's shoes. And I've had phases in my life where, I had mentors and I was trying to be them. And my actions were like, I wanted to impress them. I wanted to make them happy. And so I found myself sacrificing things about who I was, because I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want to offend them, because I wanted to think like I had to like everything they liked and disliked everything they disliked, so they would be like me. Well, here's the thing is there's nobody that you are ever going to agree with 100% on everything. It's just remove that from your life and understand that it's okay that you don't have to agree with everybody. That doesn't make you a disagreeable person or a bad person. Or for me, I don't know if it's probably everybody. You like to be liked. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know anybody that's like, oh man, I like it when people hate me. I like when people like me. But
Grant Cardone enjoys it a little bit.
Yeah. You got to have thick skin. So one of the things that I saw when I first started putting myself out there is running ads and being online. Man, you get people that will hate and say nasty things about you, that it's easy to take it personal. Like when you're selling courses and you're a coach, a consultant, one of the things that was so difficult for me, people like, oh, you scammer. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I, for so long, did not want to do courses or coaching because I didn't want to be seen as a scammer or someone just because I've seen it. I've seen people that teach stuff that they don't know anything about. Seen it before. And I never wanted to be that. And, people like, oh man, you make so much money. Why don't you fix your crooked teeth? I'm like, oh man. I'm like, and so it's so easy to take things personal. But it's just, I mean, I guess you got to be happy with yourself. You got to be happy with yourself first before you try to help other people.
And I mean, you've worked with so many big names, right? And you just talked about being able to like be a sponge, right? Because it's normal when you have mentors or people that are on a higher level, you want to listen, right? People are this podcast are bringing guests that people should listen to. And you get so much information that you lose your identity a little bit of like, am I just regurgitating what other people say, or do I actually believe this? So how do you learn? Because you've worked with a lot of the big names and you got to be around them, not on a 45-minute call, but for months and months and being around them. How do you internally synthesize that information and, be able to be like, oh, cool. And then teach it back.
Yeah. So I think this, you do have to have your own core values and core principles, non-negotiables. It's like this. Some people like, how do you balance life and business and family and your faith and all of that? I'm like, there's not really a balance in it. Is you have priorities, you have non-negotiables. Like this is me, and so you're going to have voices speaking in your life. And the danger is just like you said, instead of being a voice, being an echo. You know what I mean? You're echoing what other people say. So, but you don't want to discount like, okay, I can't say what they said because but I think that you do have to internalize it, and it has to be sincerely in you. It's something that you have experienced. When it comes to teaching, experience is the best teacher. So
most expensive teacher, but the best.
Most expensive teacher. Yeah. So I think it is sometimes you teach things from learning from others, and sometimes you learn it yourself. And sometimes it's like, okay, you saw it and you experienced it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like any book you read, it's like a mentor to you. And you're like, well, can I not teach that because I read it in a book? Well, yeah, of course you can, but you do want to test it and prove it too. I think maybe that's the answer right there, Jason, is when someone speaks in, you don't just echo it, but you test it, you validify it, and then you can teach it.
Love it. Great answer. We'll wrap up with just some like straightforward questions of like your must-have apps for marketing online, or your favorite most used apps. Take away the social media channels. We're talking about like tactical stuff that people may not use, like Like, don't give me Zoom, right? Like I
Man,
want the real stuff.
okay, so I'm gonna pull up my screen and I a lot of great Google Chrome extensions. Facebook Pixel Helper is a Chrome extension. I'll tell you how I use this in a powerful way. Client calls me up, says, "Hey, I want to run ads and everything like that." This Google Chrome extension in my browser, I say, "Tell me your website." They tell me their website, and it pops up. And if their pixels are not installed or installed improperly, I know there's money to be made right there. I can just like click, look at the website, pixels not, if they have no pixel on, I'm like, yeah, I can make you a lot of money. How much traffic do you get? Yeah, you don't even have a pixel installed. I don't tell them this, but I'm like, I see that they don't have a pixel installed. I know that there's money to be made.
It's the first extension on my browser right now, by the way.
Yeah. Let's see. I use Loom.
Yep.
Loom for recording videos and stuff, screen records. Another great one is Keyword Tool. Basically shows you the keywords for search Google and everything. I think those are probably my top, just kind of looking on my screen, what I use a lot.
Last question. The book and movie every entrepreneur must watch and read.
Okay. The book, so as a person of faith, I'm going to say Bible, but I think that the Bible is a book that will teach a lot about business. But I know people are going to want a better answer. I don't think there's a better answer, but some people won't listen to that just because Bible, that's an old book and everything like that. Give it a chance. Great
best-selling book of all time.
Best-selling book of all times. Yeah. Next, my second favorite book would be Expert Secrets, Russell Brunson. Expert Secrets, Russell Brunson. Best movie. Oh man. For business. That's a good question. Okay, so I'm trying to think of the name of it. Mark Zuckerberg's journey.
Oh, The Social Dilemma.
Social
Network. Social Network.
Social Network. Yeah. That's a really cool story. It shows the ups and downs of business. And
plus Aaron Sorkin's such a great writer.
Yeah. So I think that's a great one. There's a lot of movies out there when it comes to business that are good.
Amazing. Paul, thank you so much for doing this. For the listeners who want to reach out and find you, how can they get a hold of you?
Hey, well, the easiest way is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Paul, just Paul. Send me a message there.
How'd you get that? I need to go get Jason. That's
hey, when you spend enough money on Facebook, Mark will call you up and say, "Hey, Paul, is there anything I can do to help you out?" So,
and that's what you chose, not shares, but you chose, yeah, Mark, there is one thing I could do. I always wanted the Paul handle.
Yeah. No, I've been on Instagram a while, and so I have connections. So.
Amazing. Paul, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, Jason. My pleasure.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, check out our most recent video over here. And this one is the one YouTube thinks you'll like. But if you really enjoyed watching, please do me a favor, like and subscribe over here. Thank you so much.